Welcome to Mediumship Sparks, where we connect more deeply with spirit and source and follow the sparks of insight and inspiration that bring us greater awareness, healing, and just more flow into our lives. I'm Noelle Dean, intuitive medium, licensed therapist, and your host. A quick note before we begin: this podcast is for educational purposes only and provides general information. It is not medical or psychological advice and is not a substitute for care from a licensed health professional. I'm so grateful we get to step into this. Hi, welcome to today's episode of Mediumship Sparks, the next chapter. As I was thinking about what to share with you today, it occurred to me that I don't really do much how-to stuff related to mediumship, and that may be part of what you are looking for in a podcast called Mediumship Sparks. I wanted to share one today. What we're going to talk about today is using your body as a pendulum. This can also be called energy testing and probably a load of other things as well. Sometimes I call it checking in, meaning to me, checking in with my intuition. Now, who or what you are checking in with or connecting with or energy testing with, I think can be very flexible. I will often think of my intuition, which is a general, the universe source kind of idea. However, you can also use this if you want to connect with, let's say, a grandparent in spirit, or even a nonverbal person or being like your cat. I was at a birthday party recently of a friend of mine, and she wanted me to do an exercise that I'm going to show you in just a moment that is usually part of the first classroom of my beginning mediumship class, where we talk about checking in and how to get attuned to be able to do that with confidence for yourself. And I brought enough supplies to do this with everybody who was at this dinner party. And there were about, I think, 12 people. And not everybody was really down for it, although they participated, I think, to be polite. And I really wish it had occurred to me to say to somebody who I believe was quite religious, okay, if you want to connect with Christ or God or whomever about what you're asking, please direct your question that way. It doesn't have to be some airy-fairy sounding woo thing you don't connect with. Of course, I connect totally with the airy-fairy woo stuff, and maybe you do too. But it's not limited to that. When I first started feeling and connecting with my grandmother when she would visit, this was the only tool I really had to communicate with her. I learned this about 28 years ago when I was starting a healing class at a spiritualist church. And I'd never heard of it before, and I've used it ever since, maybe a little too much at times, but I find it very helpful. And you can use this for so many applications. So I'm going to show you the exercise. In this healing class, they had these brown paper bags. So if you're listening, this is like those lunch bags that some of us used to take in. So they're small bags, and it has the letter A on it, and there's something inside of the bag. And in the class, they had us hold the bag up to our solar plex area, so a little bit above our belly button, and to ask, let's say, to the universe, is what's in this bag for my highest good? And we would get an answer. Now, there was a perception that there was only one way to receive a yes and a no answer. And I have come to learn that actually isn't the case, that everybody has their own yes and no response from the universe. And it's good to find out by asking what yours is. So that's where we're going to start right now. I hope you're watching this, but you don't need to be. But I'm just going to describe what I'm doing. So I'm standing, and I am feeling tall and strong, but also flexible. And I am going to ask the universe to show me a yes. And as I do that, if you're watching, that I am leaning forward. I've also been doing this for 28 years, so I'm not resisting the leaning or anything that I'm feeling, and that is very helpful. And then I'm going to ask the universe to show me a no, and then slowly I am being leaned back. That's a very common yes, leaning forward. Oh, they're doing it to me again. And no, I'm waiting for them, and they're doing me backwards. So that's common. However, that may or may not be your yes and no. And the only way to find out is to ask. So you can just stand up You could sit down too. I found the clearer answer standing up, but do whatever feels right to you. But you're going to ask the universe to show you your yes. And then you're going to ask the universe to show you your no. And then maybe double and triple check to make sure it's consistent. Now, my caveat to that is maybe don't have something in mind of what it is. And also, before you do it, do a body check and notice anything that you're feeling first. So you get your baseline so that when you ask the question, what changes or what happens after that, you'll know is the yes and the no. Okay. You might be driving, so don't do it now. But when you have a chance, you just ask the universe, nobody in particular, really, to please show you a yes and see what you notice or feel or hear. Now, in the classes that I've been teaching, this is what I encourage people to do. And I'm just going to share a few examples of various things that were other people's yeses and nos. One person got a slight constriction around their throat for a no. One person saw a bright light in their third eye, like kind of like the sunshine, for a yes. Another yes is a poking feeling in their index finger. Some people can feel something on one side of their body for a yes, maybe the other side for a no, and they're not, and they're not necessarily opposites. So like the throat constriction and the finger poking belong to the same person. So you just want to ask, and often it stays consistent. I wonder if you could ask, if you're like, I haven't figured it out, universe, can you please work with leaning me forward for a yes? Please work with leaning me back for a no. I think that they would likely oblige. It's really helpful. And I find it helpful when I'm like food shopping or I'm dining out and I want to know maybe what's going to be satisfying, what's going to be good for my body. So I'll ask. Now, I only ask if I'm actually open to the answer. If picturing it now, if there was like a hot fudge sundae in front of me and I was like, oh, is it for my highest good to eat this hot fudge sundae? They're telling me no only because it's not sitting in front of me, because I can be such a child about sugar, especially if it was ice cream, that they would probably just give me a yes because they wouldn't want to hear me whine about it because it would maybe cause more of an upset to say no. I'm not sure. You ask if this thing is for your highest good, or doing this thing is for your highest good, or everybody's highest good, maybe. But only ask, just like advice. Don't ask for advice if you're not going to take it, or if you're only asking to be polite, but you're really not going to consider it. So you only want to ask a yes and no question in this kind of way if you mean it. So if it was the hot fudge sundae, I would never ask because I'm going to eat that pretty much. So just a couple of words of advice. Keep the questions that you're going to ask super simple. It has to be a clean yes and a clean no. So let's say I have whatever I have in my bag A and I hold it up to my solar plexus and I ask if what's in this bag is for my highest good. I got an immediate no. I do happen to know what's in this. When I do this for my new students in my class, I give them 4 bags with different items in them and they have no idea what's in them. And then sometimes they're pleasantly surprised. Sometimes they're a little grumpy about the answer they get, especially when it's coffee in the bag and they're told it's not for their highest good. But it could be that a small, let's say I had salt, which I've done before. If I have a small amount of salt in somebody's brown paper bag, they might get a yes. They might get a no, but it might be in whatever quantity, this is terrible for you, or maybe small amounts are fine, but more than that is not okay. You can get a lot more specific with it. I'll use it like if I'm buying conditioner, or things that aren't even like food items. I've learned to use it for most things, maybe too much sometimes. Am I supposed to go to, is it for my highest good to go to the gym today? And I'm getting a no. Or about, let's say, taking a trip, or when to take that trip, or calling somebody, or doing something with your work. One of the ways I learned to use it, and I felt dumb that I waited so long because it was super helpful, which is part of why I wanted to share this with you today. Now, look, if you are just beginning, let's say an intuition/mediumship journey, this could be a great tool to help build confidence with picking up on information. Even if you're pretty advanced, but it would be nice sometimes to get a little more certainty. That's why I started using it and I love it. When I get a piece of information for somebody during a reading and I'm like, wait, am I getting that right? And I actually asked that in my head. because I'm like, oh crap, that was super specific. Now I'm a little bit nervous, or something where I'm just not as much in the flow, then it would be helpful to get a little extra confirmation. I ask, am I getting this right? If I start getting fuzzy in what I'm receiving and I ask sometimes I've gotten a no, and then I'm like, thank you. Let me refresh myself and come back and ask what the next thing is for this reading. But I tell you, it built so much confidence for me so quickly. And that's part of why I teach it first. I really have found it to be priceless in that area. There are plenty of people who use pendulums. And I was looking for mine and I couldn't find it. And maybe because I've been using my body as a pendulum for so long, when I actually, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, tried to use a pendulum somebody gave me as a gift, I thought, let me give it a shot. I even printed out one of those circular letter boards to see, because she was getting incredible messages with such clarity. It was amazing. And I thought, let me give it a try. Maybe my hand also is not steady enough for that. So that might be part of it. And I felt like I was making up the answers to that, which is such a terrible feeling. And anybody who's gotten into mediumship knows that's often where we start. We think we're making stuff up. So it felt like, in that way, it felt a little like taking a step backwards. But I felt like I have so much more confidence in using my body in this way. I should just stick with it. So different applications. Let's see. Let's say you have a sense that one of your relatives or somebody who passed is with you. You can ask if they're with you in that moment to be sure. So I'll just demonstrate. So I don't have a sense. I think Mama's with me, but I'll ask, Mama, are you with me right now? Oh, gotta know. I guess I was wrong. Papa, are you with me right now? Thank you. So if you're watching, you're seeing I'm swaying a bit side to side. Now, this is a maybe answer, or that wasn't quite the right question. This is what it looks like on me. That might not be the right question, or maybe might look and feel very different from mine, but that's a possible response, or you're not asking quite the right question. I'll paint a picture for you. In my bedroom, it's late, and then suddenly, from head to toe, I would get intense chills. And I'd have a moment of freak out, like, what the? And then I'd be like, oh, wait a minute. Mama, is that you? And I would get a yes. And I'd be like, oh, thank goodness. And then I would start to ask more questions. When she would come, I wasn't sure if it was just to say hi, or maybe somebody wasn't doing well and she's trying to communicate something to me. So I would ask, is everybody okay? Then I would try to hone in question by question, simple yes, simple no, and get deeper into whatever felt like the right direction to move. So I would understand why she was there. And sometimes it was just to say hello, which was always beautiful. I can pick up in a lot of different ways. All of my senses can be used to pick up information. But when it's for myself, or let's say I'm really tired, or I've taken my sleep gummies, I don't know, an hour or so ago, and everything's a little bit fuzzy, I really do use this to communicate if I feel like my other grandmother around. She used to come around quite often at night, and I'd be like, Grandma, I'm high and I'm tired. Probably not the best time, but she would come. I feel like I would be disrespecting her by not engaging at all. So I would just ask her a couple of questions and then maybe ask her to come back the next day. It was even more helpful for me to use this check-in process to communicate with her and feel like I was having a sense of why she was there. You can use it for so many different things. I've used it for debating about, let's say, taking a trip, lending somebody money. Gosh, honestly, I've used it for pretty much everything I can think of. You may not choose to use it that way, and that's totally okay. I can be very indecisive, and using this tool gives me so much more confidence. If I am unattached to the response and what I'm supposed to do after that, then I'm in great shape. I can ask anything that I want. If I have no attachment to the outcome of it, I'm a clean slate in that way, and I can really trust the information that I get. So again, don't be attached. Don't ask about an ice cream sundae. Oh, I'm seeing one of those strawberry shortcake, I think it was called, on a stick. God, I haven't thought about that in years. But when I was a kid in New York City, we had Mr. Softy come around in his ice cream truck, and it was one of the ice cream bars that you could purchase, and it was strawberry flavored. It had these little crumbly things on the outside. Anyway, I'm seeing a very clear picture of that right now. So if that is your weakness, don't ask if you should eat it. If you're pretty determined to eat it and you're going to throw a little bit of a fit in your head if you get a no, just don't bother asking. No harm, no foul. I'm going to use it right now, and I would genuinely use it this way anyway. Okay. Was there anything I left out? Yes. Okay. Thank you. The word I saw was for will. And are you implying this about people having free will? Getting a yes on that. This is genuinely how I use it when I use it. Is there something in particular you'd like me to say about free will? No, nothing. But if you're curious, oh, sorry, they're going off the ice cream thing. They're saying they never want to infringe. I am seeing those words. They never want to infringe on free will and power within yourselves. Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to keep using it. Okay. So, oh, sorry. And for those of you listening, I didn't mention, I got responses that made me take the next step forward. So I'm just going to ask again. Okay. Is there anything else about will, power, or empowering yourselves I should share? And I'm getting a no. Okay. Is there anything else that you would like me to share before we end the video? Yes. How much I love using this intuitive screening technique. You want me to share my opinion about this? I'm getting a yes. It makes my life a whole lot easier. So I've shared in previous videos that I have some cognitive stuff like residual brain fog. And when I am indecisive, if I can be clear on the question and the choices, I use this and I can live by what I get. And that has been absolutely priceless for me for many years. And this is what I continue to do. This is what I will continue to do for the rest of my life, without a doubt. When I am finishing up delivering a message, so let's say I'm doing a reading and I get a chunk of information, like maybe the person that I'm across from had a question, or the person in spirit just wanted to share about something. And so they share and then the information stops flowing. So they're done with that idea. I double check by saying, is there anything else about that? And I'm swaying backwards. So that's a no. So that means they're done with this part. At the end of the reading, I'll just double check. Is there anything else you want to say before we end? And I'm getting a no right now. Also very helpful if you do readings or tap in, that you at times could just keep going. But there's like a time when it's okay, now's like a good stopping point. So it is helpful to ask, because if you're feeling a little itchy, I kind of have to use the bathroom. I think it's been about an hour. I'm feeling done. If you double check, then you know for sure you didn't stop early or take a message away from your recipient, which none of us want to feel like we're doing that. We want to give people the full experience of what they came for. I'm just going to ask them, do you think anybody will have other questions about this that we can ask now? So they're emphasizing the black or white questions. So it really does have to be simple. And you may have to ask 10 different simple black and white questions to get to the question you actually were looking to ask. Thank you. So can you give me an example, please? They're bringing up, let's say you wanted to know how somebody is doing, somebody who's maybe having some health concerns, or somebody maybe you're not in touch with. I'm just using this as an example. Can I ask about how Elizabeth's health is doing right now? And I'm getting a yes. I'm actually thinking of a friend of mine. I wasn't thinking that, but that's what came to me. So I'm just going with it, which is part of using your intuition anyway. Okay, next question. Should I give her a call? Okay, getting a yes. Is it for the highest good for me to call her today? And I'm seeing before Friday. Okay. Now, when you start getting messages and you combine the two, maybe it's like in combining clairvoyance and clairaudience. These are just all tools that when they work together, it's fabulous. You get even richer answers, not complicated, but it's not just yes and no. So now I'm going to write this down. And tomorrow's Friday, so I better call her today. Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, is there anything else about that I should know? No, I'm getting that her kids are doing well. Thank you. Okay. So please give it a try. Now, if you wanted to start with these bags, these types of things, to test yourself, or even the culprit, you can try it, but don't be attached, and check in to understand, is this food that I eat but maybe upsets my stomach? Or you could ask somebody else to put items in bags to disguise it so you don't know what you're asking about, so you can't be attached to the answer. And that could be really helpful. And you don't have to hold anything up to your solar plexus. You can look at something, just think of something and ask about that thing. If you're at a taco shop, let's say, you're not going to hold the burrito in front of your belly, but you're going to look and say, bean and cheese, is it right for me to get a bean and cheese burrito today? If you haven't used this before and you're going to start, if you want to share and tell me how it's going, I would love to hear that. If you discovered an unusual yes and no for yourself and want to share about that, please do. You can email me at mediumshipsparkspodcast@gmail.com or connectingwithnoelle@gmail.com, whichever is easier for you to remember. I would love to hear some feedback from you and to see ways that you use this. I hope it was supportive for you as well on your journey. Whether you're at the very beginning, middle, or in the advanced stage of doing all this, I can imagine ways it would really enhance and help you. And I hope it does. So from my heart to yours, I hope you're doing well. And if there's anything I can do to support you, reach out. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye. Thanks for spending this time with me on Mediumship Sparks. If this episode resonated with you, please like it, subscribe, rate, and certainly share it with somebody else who could benefit. If you're interested in any support I might be able to provide as you navigate your spiritual path, please feel free to check out my offerings at connectingwithnoelle.com and reach out at mediumshipsparkspodcast@gmail.com. Take good care of yourself, and I'll look forward to being with you again soon.